What do we know, everybody? Well, my boss man has a saying that he likes to say from time to time. And that saying goes, don't worry about the small things, and the big things will work themselves out or fall into place. And this is a saying that I've heard before in some semblance or another, and I'm sure you've all heard it too. But there's one big problem with this saying, or more so the guy that's saying it, and he does not hold true to that at all. I mean, he is a guy notorious for waking up at 3 a.m. thinking of something little that hasn't been done yet, and he will fixate on it, freak out about it. And then by the time morning comes, I get there, he is all wound up about that one little thing that turns into a really, really big thing. And what I mean by that is he kind of groups everything into a bucket. He takes every little thing that needs to be done, or every little thing that has yet to be done, and he puts it into a big pile. And a guy like me, I worry about one thing at a time. If we have X, Y, and Z that needs to be done, I start with X, I move to Y, I move to Z. So I worry about one little piece at a time. Well, that old boy, he isn't like that. He worries about everything as a collective and just stresses him out. And so what you end up doing is you end up moving from one thing to another, to another, to another, without ever finishing the one thing you started on. Which in turn gets you stuck in this sort of loop where you got a bunch of different projects going and not one of them gets done. And then it gets stressful for everybody involved. It's weird to me. And I shouldn't think it's overly weird, because when I was really going through my hardcore anxiety and depression stuff, which wasn't all that long ago, and I still deal with a fair amount of it. But I remember when it was really, really bad, I would worry about everything together. It was just one thing after another, after another, after another. Didn't matter what it was. It could have been small. But I worried about it all together. And everything kind of compounded itself, and everything got worse and worse and worse. So we'll take a house, for example. So you got your house, you got all the stuff that needs to be cleaned, you got dishes that need to be done, you got laundry that needs to be done, beds that need to be made, toilets that need to be cleaned, floors that need to be picked up, floors that need to be swept, mopped, vacuumed, trash that needs to be taken out of all the rooms. It's a lot of stuff, right? But if you worry about it all together, it's overwhelming. That is a lot of stuff that needs to be done. However, if you break it down, worry about one thing at a time. Say you're gonna do dishes first. Start with the dishes. Well, that helps alleviate some of the mess that you're gonna be dealing with otherwise. Then maybe you can pick up the floors. Great. And then you can move on to, let's say, sweeping, and then mopping, and then vacuuming, or I'm sure vacuuming's got to go before some of that, but you get the point. If you worry about everything as a whole, it's overwhelming, it's daunting, it's not any good. But if you break things down, worry about one thing at a time, the little things don't seem to bother you so much. But stressing about the little things and worrying about every little thing separate, it makes everything really, If you worry about the little things separate, worry about them themselves when they come up in time, instead of worrying about everything all together, everything is more manageable. Now I know when I was dealing with my anxiety problems really bad, like I said, I worried about everything together. So it was everything from money, food, gas for the car, getting some places, my own mental health issues, every little thing. Let's say I was playing a video game and nothing was working out in that. Well, instead of worrying about that separate, understanding it's not that big of a thing, I threw it on that pile. I threw it in that bucket with all my other problems. And everything got really, really bad. It got worse. And I started wondering why nothing was ever going to work out for me and why everything went to pot, and it was just horrible. And I remember people telling me, you just can't worry about it like that. You got to take one thing at a time. You know, this isn't that big of a deal, but for me then, it was. Because I couldn't separate it. And I think, you know, that was the problem with anxiety, is I couldn't separate anything. I mean, it's just what it was. And like I say, the boss man, he groups everything into a big bucket. He worries about it all. Then he gets a terrible attitude. And I'm the guy that, you know, he takes it out on, which isn't right, but it is what it is. So it's one of them crazy things. You know, we all worry about so much on a daily basis. I mean, everybody worries about money. Some of us worry about food. Some of us worry about every other thing in life. I mean, that's how we're wired. Everybody worries. Everything worries. But being able to separate your big worries from your little worries and worry about them individually, separately, instead of grouping them together all at once, it makes a difference. Yeah, especially in terms of tasks that need to be done. Whether it's cleaning, fixing things, getting things ready. You know, it's not healthy or really feasible to worry about everything at once all together. But if we worry about one thing at a time, it's amazing how manageable things become. Everything works itself out. I mean, that's the crazy truth about it. May not be in our time, it may not work out how we want it to, but it all does work out. And my wife always asks me how I'm always so cool about all this stuff, how I never seem like I'm worried. Well, there for a long time in my life, I was worried about everything, stressed about everything. And I've really kind of figured out that, yeah, it doesn't help anything. But I can make my life a lot more pleasant, a lot more enjoyable, even with my worries, if I separate them. So I can worry about one thing at a time. So now, after all those years of suffering and struggling and all this other good mess, I'm able to separate everything and worry about one thing at a time. So everything that I do is very methodical, very deliberate. It's just the way I am. You know, just same when I go work on stuff out at the farm. I know what I want to get done that day, and that's what I go and do. And the boss man usually throws a wrench in it because of stuff that he thinks of in the middle of the night, but it is what it is. But when I start on something, I know what it's going to take to get it done, and I worry about the one thing at a time. And if another problem arises while doing that, then no big deal. We'll worry about that at a later date. It may be frustrating. It may take longer than what you're assuming it will. And that's fair. That happens. And it does get frustrating. But in the end, does it really matter? No. It all gets done. It all works itself out. If you worry about all these little things, they turn into big things. That's just the way that it is. And Boss Man is living proof of that every single day. So I don't know. It's a good piece of advice. He doesn't live to it, doesn't adhere to it, doesn't follow it, and a lot of people don't. But I just think it's funny. It gives me something to ramble about tonight. But like I say, once I figured out not to worry about the little things and to worry about every little thing separate instead of together, it makes life a lot more enjoyable. It makes life a lot more manageable and a lot more peaceful. And I don't know, just something to think about tonight. But at any rate, guys, I think I've rambled long enough, paced around long enough. Wife's probably wondering what I'm doing out here, walking around back and forth. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I enjoy making them. And as always, guys, I thank y'all for watching.